The IELTS reading section, a soul-crushing nightmare, but today unlock Band 9 secrets on the Driverless Cars passage.
Ladies and gentlemen, gather round, because tonight I'm going to talk about the IELTS reading section, that glorious, soul-crushing beast that has exacerbated the anxiety of millions of test takers worldwide. And let me tell you folks, it's like going on a blind date with a 900-word passage about driverless cars, where the text is all sleek and futuristic, but halfway through you're sweating, thinking, why won't this thing just drive itself to the answers? Picture this. You're in the exam room, heart pounding, and they hand you 3 passages, academic, dense, full of ubiquitous jargon that makes you feel like you've wandered into a TED Talk gone wrong. And the first one might be about nutmeg, the second about autonomous vehicles, and the third about some explorer who got lost for fun. But today, oh boy, we're diving into passage 2, driverless cars, because nothing says hilarious nightmare like reading about robots taking your job while you're desperately scanning for synonyms. So, I sit down, pencil in hand, because it's paper-based, folks. No Ctrl plus F here, that's cheating. And the instructions say, you should spend about 20 minutes on questions 14 to 26. 20 minutes? For 13 questions? That's like saying, enjoy this gourmet meal, but eat it in 4 bites while blindfolded, and the passage starts innocently enough. Driverless cars. A. The automotive sector is well used to adapting to automation in manufacturing. The implementation of robotic car manufacture from the 1970s onwards led to significant cost savings and improvements in the reliability and flexibility of vehicle mass production. A new challenge to vehicle production is now on the horizon, and again, it comes from automation. However, this time it is not to do with the manufacturing process, but with the vehicles themselves. Research projects on vehicle automation are not new. Vehicles with limited self-driving capabilities have been around for more than 50 years, resulting in significant contributions towards driver assistance systems. But, since Google announced in 2010 that it had been trialing self-driving cars on the streets of California, progress in this field has quickly gathered pace. B. There are many reasons why technology is advancing so fast. One frequently cited motive is safety. Indeed, research at the UK's Transport Research Laboratory has demonstrated that more than 90% of road collisions involve human error as a contributory factor, and it is the primary cause in the vast majority. Automation may help to reduce the incidence of this. Another aim is to free the time people spend driving for other purposes. If the vehicle can do some or all of the driving, it may be possible to be productive, to socialize, or simply to relax, while automation systems have responsibility for safe control of the vehicle. If the vehicle can do the driving, those who are challenged by existing mobility models are wanawi chawi binem serdi sadodir as oriodir and be user are during the disabled travelers and be the serdi dirdrawi may be able to enjoy significantly greater travel autonomy. C. Beyond these direct benefits, we can consider the wider implications for transport and society, and how manufacturing processes might need to respond as a result. At present, the average car spends more than 90% of its life parked. Automation means that initiatives for car sharing become much more viable, particularly in urban areas with significant travel demand. If a significant proportion of the population choose to use shared automated vehicles, mobility demand can be met by far fewer vehicles. D. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology investigated automated mobility in Singapore, finding that fewer than 30% of the vehicles currently used would be required if fully automated car sharing could be implemented. If this is the case, it might mean that we need to manufacture far fewer vehicles to meet demand. However, the number of trips being taken would probably increase, partly because empty vehicles would have to be moved from one customer to the next. Modeling work by the University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute suggests automated vehicles might reduce vehicle ownership by 43%, but that vehicles' average annual mileage would double as a result. As a consequence, each vehicle would be used more intensively and might need replacing sooner. This faster rate of turnover may mean that vehicle production will not necessarily decrease. Automation may prompt other changes in vehicle manufacture. If we move to a model where consumers are tending not to own a single vehicle but to purchase access to a range of vehicles through a mobility provider, drivers will have the freedom to select one that best suits their needs for a particular journey, rather than making a compromise across all their requirements. Since, for most of the time, most of the seats in most cars are unoccupied, This may boost production of a smaller, more efficient range of vehicles that suit the needs of individuals. Specialized vehicles may then be available for exceptional journeys, such as going on a family camping trip or helping a son or daughter move to university. F. There are a number of hurdles to overcome in delivering automated vehicles to our roads. These include the technical difficulties in ensuring that the vehicle works reliably in the infinite range of traffic, weather, and road situations it might encounter, the regulatory challenges in understanding how liability and enforcement might change when drivers are no longer essential for vehicle operation, and the societal changes that may be required for communities to trust and accept automated vehicles as being a valuable part of the mobility landscape. G. It's clear that there are many challenges that need to be addressed, but through robust and targeted research, these can most probably be conquered within the next 10 years. Mobility will change in such potentially significant ways and in association with so many other technological developments, such as telepresence and virtual reality, that it is hard to make concrete predictions about the future. However, one thing is certain: change is coming, and the need to be flexible in response to this will be vital for those involved in manufacturing the vehicles that will deliver future mobility. Okay, pause for laughter, because by now, your brain is doing donuts in a parking lot. And here come the questions, starting with that classic locating information type, the one that feels like a treasure hunt designed by a sadist. Questions 14 through 18. Reading passage. 2 has 7 sections. A through G. Which section contains the following information? Write the correct letter, A to G, in boxes 14 to 18 on your answer sheet. 14. Reference to the amount of time when a car is not in use. 15. Mention of several advantages of driverless vehicles for individual road users. 16. Reference to the opportunity of choosing the most appropriate vehicle for each trip. 17. An estimate of how long it will take to overcome a number of problems. 18. A suggestion that the use of driverless cars may have no effect on the number of vehicles manufactured. And folks, the answers are 14, C, 15, B, 16, E, 17, G, 18, F. Wait, no, actually D, because in D it says production may not necessarily decrease. That's the no-effect bombshell. So, full correct answers: 14, C, 15, B, 16, E, 17, G, 18, D. Now, the hilarious part. I once thought question 18 was an F because of all those hurdles. Turns out the hurdles are challenges, not production levels. And I lost marks faster than a self-driving car accelerates from 0 to regret. Tips and strategies for these locating information questions, the paragraph matching ones. Folks, do not read the whole passage first. That's a pervasive myth that will, totally waste your time. Instead, skim the paragraphs quickly to get the main idea of each section. Section. And, note keywords like safety, car sharing, or hurdles. Then, just take the statements one by one. Underline keywords, for example, amount of time. Not in use means you should scan for words like parked or 90%. And remember, scan the passage for synonyms or paraphrases. The questions are not always in order, so feel free to jump around. Do the easiest first to build momentum. Eliminate wrong paragraphs fast. If it mentions manufacturing robots, it's probably A, not about individual benefits. This strategy alone can save you 5 to 10 minutes and really help you reach a band 8 or higher. And that's just the start. The full set has 13 questions, sometimes up to 26, including summary completion like human error, car sharing, ownership, mileage, and multiple choice on benefits like safety and productivity, as well as challenges such as technical difficulties and liability. Now for some overall IELTS reading tips to survive this comedy of errors. Grammar and spelling count. 1 letter wrong, and that's 0 points, folks. Keywords and capitals. Stress them when practicing aloud. It really helps your memory. For all question types, like true, false, or not given, you want to look for an exact match or a clear contradiction. And hey, make sure you transfer your answers carefully. There's really no extra time for that. Just remember to stay calm. It's totally possible to get a band 9 with the right strategy, even if English isn't your first language. So folks, the IELTS reading section. It's tough, it's kinda daunting, but with these tips you'll navigate it like a driverless car. smoothly, safely, and with time left to relax. Thank you. Good night. Now we're going to dissect these IELTS reading questions like, a comedian roasting a bad date. We're talking questions 14 through 18 from that Driverless Cars passage, the ones that make you feel like you're matching socks in the dark. And I'm going to explain each one, why the answer is correct, and why the wrong ones are just sitting there looking pretty but getting 0 points. All right, let's crank up the spotlight on these locating information questions. You know, the type where you match statements to paragraphs A through G. They're, super common, and honestly, super tricky if you don't scan properly. But, you know, it's kinda hilarious when you realize the answers are hiding in plain sight. Question 14. Reference to the amount of time when a car is not in use. Folks, this one's screaming for a number. Amount of time, not in use. So you're scanning for words like parked, idle, unused, and bam. In paragraph C, it hits you right in the face. At present, the average car spends more than 90% of its life parked. That's exactly it. 90% parked means not in use. Why not others? Well, A is about manufacturing history, B is benefits like safety, and D is studies on fewer vehicles. No parking talk there. So C is the winner. Easy points if you keyword spotted parked. Question 15. Mention of several advantages of driverless vehicles for individual road users. Okay, several advantages and individual road users, not society or manufacturers, but you, the driver, or even the non-driver. Paragraph B is basically a love letter to personal benefits. Safety, reducing human error in more than 90% of collisions, freeing up time to be productive, to socialize, or simply to relax, and, greater autonomy for older or disabled travelers. That's 3 advantages right there for individuals. Compared to C or D, those are wider implications like car sharing. E is about choosing vehicles, but B really nails the several and individual vibe perfectly. The answer is B. Because let's be honest, who doesn't want a Netflix while the car drives? Seriously, that's the dream, right? Okay, so, question 16 is all about the opportunity of choosing the most appropriate vehicle for each trip. This one's kind of sneaky, but honestly, it's gold. We're talking about opportunity of choosing most appropriate for each trip. You're basically looking for no more compromises. Just pick what actually suits your journey. And hello, paragraph E totally nails it. Drivers will have the freedom to select one that best suits their needs for a particular journey, rather than making a compromise across all their requirements. Plus, they even give examples like going on a camping trip or, moving to uni. Pretty cool, right? That is a spot-on paraphrase. Best suits. Particular journey is just another way of saying most appropriate for each trip. And why not the other options? Well, no other paragraph talks about swapping vehicles per trip like it's a wardrobe change. So yeah, solid E. Alright, so question 17 is asking for an estimate of how long it'll take to overcome a number of problems. Let's break that down. Estimate, how long, overcome, problems. Basically, we're talking about the timeline for fixing all those hurdles. Now, paragraph F, it just lists out all the headaches, technical difficulties, regulatory challenges, societal trust issues. But, what about the timeline? That's actually in paragraph G. These can most probably be conquered within the next 10 years. So, conquered means overcome, and within the next 10 years is your estimate. Plain and simple. C. Paragraph F just lists the problems without any kind of time guess. Classic trap, right? People often pick F because they see hurdles and think it means timeline, but nope, not this time. The estimate is in G. So the answer is G, because, let's be real, optimism sells, even in IELTS. Now, question 18 is a real curveball. It asks for a suggestion that the use of driverless cars may have no effect on the number of vehicles manufactured. This one trips up a lot of folks. It's not about fewer vehicles. It's not about more. It's about maybe same. So, paragraph D really drops the mic here. First, it mentions that MIT study, fewer than 30% of vehicles needed, which sounds like production drops. But then, it says there'll be higher trips, mileage doubles, vehicles used more intensively, and they'll need replacing sooner. Here's the kicker. This faster rate of turnover may mean that vehicle production will not necessarily decrease, and not necessarily decrease means it could stay the same. No effect. That's a genius paraphrase for may have no effect. Why not others? C suggests fewer via sharing. E smaller range but not quantity. F hurdles, no production talk. Only D balances the fewer with the but, wait, maybe not. So the answer is D, the ultimate IELTS plot twist. See the pattern, folks. IELTS really loves paraphrasing. Like, amount of time not in use becomes 90% of its life parked, and no effect turns into not necessarily decrease. They never, ever copy-paste. That's exactly why you scan for key ideas, not the exact words. Alright, let's do a quick recap of those correct answers and why they're basically bulletproof. So, for question 14, it's C, because that one gives a direct statistic about cars being parked or, unused most of the time. Then, for 15, it's B, since that option lists multiple personal benefits, like safety, free time, and even autonomy for folks who are disabled or elderly. Moving on, 16 is E. That's the only one that actually talks about picking the ideal vehicle for each journey, so there's no lifelong compromise. 17 is G, and that's the only place you'll find a specific time estimate, like within the next 10 years. Finally, for 18, it's D, because that paragraph is the only one suggesting production levels might stay the same, even when other things change. So, what's the moral of the story? Don't fall in love with the first paragraph that kind of sounds right. Date them all quickly, then commit. Seriously, you gotta check them all out before you make your choice. Here's the deal. Scan smart, paraphrase hunt, and you'll turn this reading section from a total tragedy into a comedy, with a band score that'll have you laughing all the way to university. Thank you. You've been a fantastic audience.
Turn IELTS reading nightmares into Band 9 triumphs? You got this.